Thank you for joining us as we come on the air in the West Coast. Hurricane Milton slamming into the Gulf Coast of Florida earlier tonight. Making landfall near Sarasota is a Category 3 storm with 120-mile-per-hour winds. Those monster gusts sending walls of water. The wind even ripping off the roof of Tropicana Field, which had been set up as a shelter. Dozens of tornadoes popping up across Florida. In St. Lucie County, multiple fatalities. Firefighters rescuing residents from vehicles and structures, with some trapped or unable to escape from overturned vehicles. Our team was on the ground across the state. We turned first to Whit Johnson in Tampa, where it has been a difficult and dangerous night. Whit.
Byron, we're in downtown Tampa right now. This is after Milton has made landfall, and we're starting to get these extreme hurricane-force wind gusts coming through. We're in a fortified parking garage right now, but I want to take you to the railing so you can take a look below at the streets. You can see the trees blowing. There's a sign across the street, some of the palm fronds. We've actually seen some signs ripped off and some debris blowing down the street here. That's the thing with Hurricane Milton that they were worried about. It's the combination of these hurricane-force wind gusts, also the rain, up to 12 inches of rain potentially expected in this area, and the potentially record-breaking storm surge of up to 9 feet. We were here just 2 weeks ago, and it was Hurricane Helene. With that storm, most of the concern was the flooding, and it did pretty significant damage. We actually went back to many of the same neighborhoods that were flooded from Hurricane Helene, and we talked to people who hunkered down in that storm. This time around, they heeded the warnings. Most of the people we spoke with said they were getting out and evacuating. 13,000 people in the Tampa area were staying in evacuation shelters. We spoke to a number of families who lived here their whole lives and said they'd never seen anything like this, the 1-2 punch from Hurricane Helene and Milton. We also talked to the fire chief, who told us that when the storm is hitting, which is happening right now, they cannot send emergency crews to respond to 911 calls. So for those who did not evacuate, they're essentially on their own right now. Those search and rescue crews will get out in high water vehicles and boats when the winds eventually subside. Byron?
Whit Johnson in Tampa, thank you so much. Stay safe, my friend. We turn now to ABC Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee, joining us from Fort Myers. Ginger, what can you tell us?
So, Byron, let me set the scene for you. As we've seen the onshore flow now, the surge behind us has had debris in it. You see that shed? The doorknob is almost reached with the water. So if it gets higher, that can be ripped apart. I actually covered Ian, and they had a little shed there that they lost in Ian. And so we're kind of repeating that part, but we're looking for a big-time surge to still be pushing up as the storm pulls across the state, because it's happening fast. It's racing. And even by early tomorrow morning, like 5 a.m., Daytona Beach to New Smyrna could be feeling some of those hurricane force gusts, definitely tropical storm force, and I think we'll see a lot of power outages overnight. We'll get rid of Milton by tomorrow afternoon, but not before it leaves behind up to 18 inches of rain, and that's for places like Tampa Bay that are on track for their wettest season on record. So just unbelievable to watch that water pushed in. The Gulf of Mexico has now breached the pool at our hotel. Byron?
Our thanks to Ginger. We turn now to Eva Pilgrim on the ground in Orlando. Eva.
Byron, we're here in Orlando, and we are starting to see the more powerful winds and downpour from Hurricane Milton. When you look at the track of where this hurricane is headed, it's going to be just south of Orlando, which puts us on the dirty side of the storm, meaning we are going to be getting all of that rain. It is going to be very wet here. As someone said, it's like a fire hose turned on in the area. And this area was getting prepared for that. They drained some of the lakes to make space for the water. They've also encouraged people, if they're in low-lying areas, to park their cars in parking garages. The city opening up those parking garages, allowing people to park there for free. The worst of this weather is going to be over Orlando. As we wake up in the morning, we will be keeping an eye on that. Byron.
Eva, thank you. Victor Akendo joins us from Sarasota on the phone, just minutes from where Milton first made landfall. Victor.
Byron, we are on the backside of the hurricane, and it is incredibly powerful. Siesta Key, where it made landfall, it's just 7 miles from us. So just moments after the eye passed over us, conditions rapidly deteriorated here. Our team had to get indoors, and we felt it start with the wind. And then over at Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, they recorded a gust of wind at 102 miles per hour, and that's just across the street from where we're staying tonight. We are without power. I'm currently wearing a headlamp just to see inside my hotel room. Storm surge, that's been a major concern all along, but Milton also spotting dozens of tornadoes. More are still possible as we all brace for a long night ahead.
Tonight, monster Hurricane Milton pounding the state of Florida. The Category 3 hurricane making landfall on the state's west coast. Catastrophic winds reaching as high as 120 miles per hour. Wind and rain pummeling the Sunshine State. The storm spawning over 30 tornadoes, ripping through neighborhoods, tearing the roofs off people's homes.
And we all started going for the hallway. Didn't even make it there in time.
And we have lost some life. Search and rescue teams are on their way. Our deputies are out here. The fire district is out here. We're going through the rubble.
Just north of Palm Beach on the East Coast, officials confirming multiple fatalities from tornadoes. Video from NASA capturing the magnitude of the storm. The intense storm surge already flooding city streets. Tampa's mayor warning locals of the dangers on CNN.
I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
The storm is here. It is really nuts out here right now. The wind is whipping.
The roof is literally ripping off.
Residents who stayed back now battling what some call unsurvivable elements. Over 2 million customers already without power. According to officials, Milton is expected to cause severe damage across Florida from Tampa to Orlando to Jacksonville.
It's not just about where it makes landfall. It's going to barrel across the state of Florida.
A local emergency currently exists.
As Milton was barreling towards the coast, officials begged residents to evacuate.
The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office is calling for evacuation.
While many Floridians fled the path of the storm in a mass exodus, for some, time ran out. With nearly 2,000 gas stations out of fuel, locals like Jenny Karate said staying in the Tampa area was her family's best option.
We had trouble finding a hotel and didn't want to get stranded on the highway running out of gas.
Calvin Bryant has lived in Sarasota since 1957. He chose not to evacuate.
So when your family, your kids and grandchildren told you to please leave, what was your response?
I'm not going nowhere.
As the storm surge got closer to the coast, dangerous tornadoes spotted across southern Florida. Terrifying home surveillance video capturing the moment this tornado roared through Fort Myers. Another tornado spotted on a traffic camera crossing I-75 west of Fort Lauderdale, far from where Milton is taking direct aim.
I watched it grow from tropical storm to a Cat 5 monster within 2 missions, which is the fastest I've ever seen anything rapidly intensify.
Earlier today, hurricane hunters from NOAA headed into the eye of the storm to evaluate its strength and size.
This is the craziest storm that I've ever flown inside of, hands down. Multiple missions in a row with the worst turbulence I've ever seen.
Once you've seen the worst, you have to prepare for the worst.
Rebecca Binkowski is no stranger to hurricane season.
There's a lot of stuff to throw away.
In 2022, Hurricane Ian destroyed the island of Sanibel, 20 miles off the coast of Fort Myers, the location of her beloved bookstore. After the devastation, she had to rebuild an entirely new location. But with her new bookstore in the path of Hurricane Milton, she decided to evacuate, this time to St. Augustine.
I may not be able to come back to my store for weeks, months, who knows. So I took all of the merchandise out of my store.
Milton coming on the heels of Hurricane Helene. The destruction from that Category 4 absolutely devastating. With more than 230 people killed, according to officials, Helene is now the deadliest mainland hurricane since Katrina. Helene ravaged the southeastern states, particularly North Carolina. Deadly mudslides, water plants severely damaged, hundreds of thousands left without power, roads completely blocked, bridges collapsed. One family in the town of Fairview losing 11 people.
My mother and father, my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, lost cousins.
second cousins.
In Florida, the aftermath of that storm leaving debris piled high. That wreckage now possibly becoming flying projectiles with Milton's strong winds. While disinformation about the federal government's help with the storm recovery has run rampant, efforts are already underway.
Over the last few weeks, there's been reckless and irresponsible and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies about what's going on. It's undermining confidence in the people in Florida. An incredible rescue and recovery work that has been undertaken.
FEMA is on the ground in Florida, working with local authorities, urging Americans to apply for assistance.
The biggest effect, I would say, is people that have been impacted are afraid to apply for our assistance. Assistance that then they can get a hotel room. They can get reimbursement for some of the costs or damages to their home.
But as Hurricane Milton continues to pass through the state of Florida, the results of its devastation is still unknown.